let's kind of get into this right now about the 30 problems that I've identified in the 96 M3 here. So I paid a pretty good price for this car, and it's not collector grade. Like I said before in some of the other videos, the paint is probably a 6 or 7 out of 10, and the interior is a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. But and the engine and everything are fine. There's very, very minimal rust on the car. It has been a California car most of its life. But with that said, let's just talk about the exterior. So there's rust on the rear bumper area. Very small, probably about an inch and a half. It's very surface, but that's going to have to be taken care of. There is some slight rust on the window, on the top of the edge around the windshield. The windshield will probably have to be removed, and that will have to be taken care of. There is some rust on the passenger side shock tower. So it looked pretty surface, but we won't actually know until we actually change the engine out if it's an issue or not. So that kind of takes care of the rust. I didn't notice any other rust on the car other than those 3 minor spots. Then we could talk about the paint. So at one time this car had larger wheels and tires on it. So on the passenger side rear, from rolling the fenders, the paint is cracked on the passenger side. So we're going to have to address that. There are some other paint issues. There are some spots on the bumper where you could tell where it was either bumped and it cracked the paint. And there is a scratch on the hood. It's very hard to tell, especially with the yellow. But overall, the car was resprayed before, but the paint is actually in good shape. But we'll have to try and address those areas. The front hood actually doesn't line up correctly, so that's an adjustment, but we'll have to take care of that. The window moldings, the black surround is actually plastic, and it wears off over time. Once again, the car is 25 years old this year, so that will have to be taken off and replaced. The passenger door gaps are actually perfect. The gaps, I had the car inspected. The gaps itself are perfect, but the doors stick. I did put some white lithium grease, and that did seem to help out quite a bit. But I'm going to see, we might have to make an adjustment on the passenger side door as well. Once again, this car has all the VIN numbers, so none of the panels have been replaced. They all have the factory OEM panels. So I think it's just an adjustment from that point of view. Every one of these DS2 wheels actually has curb rash, so that will need to be addressed as well. If we lift up the hood insulation and the light inside is missing, so that's another issue that needs to be taken care of. I talked a little bit about the door handles being stiff. It's been 21 to 22 years since I last owned an M3, and at that time it was a brand new car. And I'm still trying to figure out, like, was that normal for the period or not? So I'm going to have my builder take a look at it and see what we can do. The rear wing, the third brake light is out. I purchased it that way, and so it's like a $100 part. Just replace it. I will tell you this, when I drive the car, let's talk about some of the things when I'm driving. It makes a whining noise, and I can't tell if it's because there's an aftermarket stereo and it's getting feedback, or if that's the engine. I've tried turning off the radio, so we'll have to address that, and well, the engine's going out anyhow, and the stereo is going to be replaced. So we do have that issue. There's also a clunking noise when I put the car in reverse, and this is very common. So I think either it's a Gibo, it could be a rear shock mount, although the shock mount's everything checked out. We'll have to do a little more in-depth work, and we'll stay tuned. We'll kind of tell you what that is. The fog lamps are disconnected. Once again, this car had fog lamp deletes on it. The dealer enthusiast I bought the car from actually took them off and put in regular fog lights, but did not connect them. The wiring is all there, but it is not connected. So I couldn't tell you if they work. Same thing with the sunroof. The sunroof was missing the motor controller for it, so that will need to be addressed. We'll have to buy a new motor and get the sunroof working correctly. So we know that. Let's take a little closer look on the windshield as well. 25 years, it's kind of pitted. I think it's original glass if I look at it. So I'll probably end up replacing the windshield because I'm going to pull it out anyhow to replace the to fix the rust that's on the surround and then put it back in. The other issue I'm having is I did recently install the headliner and it did help with some of the wind noise from the outside, but there's still pretty significant wind noise in my mind if I'm going to use this as a daily driver that needs to be addressed. So we talked a little bit about that. Let's kind of take a little deeper dive into the interior. The climate control, when I first bought the car, the dealer still needed to fix the intermittent control. It was the fan speed unit, the FSU. That was taken care of. It actually works fine now. When I did buy the car, it did not have air conditioning. It had been removed. So that will obviously have to be replaced. The Vader seats are in pretty good shape. I give, an 8.5 for the passenger side and the rear seats, and the door cards are pretty good. The driver's side door card has an issue, and the driver's side Vader seat, it's just worn, and you can tell the foam underneath is starting to crack. The seat itself's not cracking, but it might have to be replaced. The next big issue for me, even though I live in California, is that it needs to have heated seats. So we're going to put some heated seats in this thing, or put some heating elements into the existing Vaders. One of the owners along the way actually took out the ASC button. That's not a big deal for me. All it really was is it basically controlled the fuel, and cut off the engine for a 96. So I don't really care about that. There are no rear speakers, so I can't tell if the speakers have been changed in the doors or in the front kick panels, but that'll be addressed when we actually fix the stereo system. The instrument cluster, the miles per gallon, which is not something that I'm super interested in, it works sometimes, it's intermittent, I'm not sure what's going on there. Candidly, I wish I had a European oil temperature gauge. I know it's not a true accurate oil temperature gauge, but once again here in the US we didn't get that feature. I'm going to take the Kenwood stereo Bluetooth receiver in there. It's actually okay, but I really want a CarPlay. I want a 7-inch navigation screen. Kenwood and Alpine both make shallow units, so you don't have to cut up your dash. So that's an enhancement. It's not really a problem, but that's number 18 on my list. I want an armrest in the car. This one, it was actually an option you could buy in 1996. So I will have a armrest installed in the center. So a place to put that. I do plan on another enhancement. It has a Momo steering wheel, which is nice, and it's actually Alcantara. I'm going to purchase probably a flat bottom standard e36, the 3-spoke wheel, and have it covered in Alcantara, and maybe with some M stitching. I'll also do the shift boot and the parking brake boot as well. I think just minor interior mods at this point in time. I don't want to get too crazy. I want to see how it comes out and how it runs and drives and feels. The one thing I do wish I could fix is the crayon smell. Oh my God, you hear this from all the BMW owners. Supposedly BMW back in the 90s, and I think even up until today, uses biodegradable materials. I'm not so sure how that's good for the environment, other than I guess they decompose quicker, but literally 25 years later they're decomposing in your car and they gas off a certain smell. It smells like, if you have kids, crayons. So break out the Crayolas and smell what they do, and it's kind of, you get that smell. We got to figure out how we can reduce that smell in the car. I did find some unique things. There's a flat wire below the center console that's big cut. I have no idea what that goes to. Everything seems to work for the most part, but we need to look at that. So that's the 30 issues that I found so far, but let's kind of take a big high-level picture here. We're trying to create a California legal e36 M3 swap with an LS in it. We want the interior to be period correct, but nice, no squeaks, rattles, and we want to bring it up to date with Apple CarPlay and a good sounding stereo system in it. We're going to do some other minor enhancements with some Alcantara on the steering wheel and the shift boot and the parking brake boot. And then we'll get everything working, sunroof, and we'll make it nice. We'll fix the rust issues, and then we will change out the headlights. We'll probably do something around the wheels. It currently has the standard DS2s, but with that much power, I'm not sure we'll be able to leave them on here. We'll probably want bigger wheels. We might have to even do something around rolling the fenders and or actually doing flares. I'm going to let my builder and I kind of make that decision as we get there. But I'm super excited. Come along for the ride. I think we're going to learn a lot. I'm going to try to share as much of the learnings that I get from this with the audience as I can. Thank you.